introduce my good friend and chavrusa from a long time ago, Rabbi Broker. Last year, Rabbi Tzvi's talk mamish changed my life, literally. Please, you can eat as he talks. It's a big honor for Rabbi Tzvi. He's moichel even if you, right?
Yeah.
So just sit down, please. Please take your seats and listen to Rabbi Tzvi.
I have one request: is to come close. Come close. It's
Rabbi Tzvi is the big guy of Israel. He wants everyone to be together. Everyone to be back.
Everyone can come close. I don't bite. It's okay. All right.
Water? Are you sure? Yeah. Anything else you need?
That will be present. All right. So today we're going to talk about building our personal brand in Judaism. So does anyone here know what a personal brand is? Raise a hand. Anyone? Personal brand? Okay.
I'm not sure.
A little bit? All right. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to read for you.
Donald Trump.
All right. So I'm going to read for you. This is Wikipedia's definition of a personal branding. Okay. So personal branding is the practice of people marketing themselves and their careers as brands. Right? So we probably grew up, with the concept of a brand being something you see in the supermarket, right? But personal branding is the practice of people marketing themselves or their jobs as a brand. While previous self-help management techniques were about self-improvement, the personal branding concept suggests instead that success comes from self-packaging. Right? So what Wikipedia is telling us here, right, is that it used to be if somebody wanted to succeed, you worked on self-improvement. But current strategy, and this is where everything's moving if you've paid attention to advertisements, if you've paid attention to any website you may have been on, is now moving towards success coming from self-packaging. All right? What's self-packaging? So self-packaging is the process of a person establishing an image of themselves in the mind of other people and promoting that image towards another person. So a person comes up for themselves how they want to be perceived by other individuals, and then they work towards taking that image and whichever way they can, pushing it out and out so people will see them through the way that they push themselves and their image towards them. So on surface level, this seems like a very, very chitzoni, superficial exercise. Right? It seems like, everything Judaism is trying to teach us not to be. Right? That we should just try to think how we want other people to perceive us and then focus on trying to get across that message, whether or not it's true or not.
Mark Sign doesn't.
Right. Okay. So today we're what? Knevas Das. Right. Seems quite good. So today the topic was building our personal brand in Judaism. Okay. So I have a hard task in front of me. Right. And today we're really going to explore together how, in fact, personal branding is a wonderful tool. I think the fact that the world is moving towards personal branding today is part of a bigger picture of as we move along to the Geula process. And in fact, personal branding comes really in line to solve a lot of challenges that we're having today in chinuch and our own personal growth. So let's begin. So let's start with a warm-up exercise. And I'm just going to tell you guys ahead of time that this talk's going to be quite different than probably other talks that are going to be here today, and perhaps different than any other talks you've heard in the past. It's going to be very interactive. I'm going to rely on you guys to participate. We have fun things to do together. Okay? Rav Akiva mentioned, you've seen on the signs, right, besides for working in outreach, I'm also working as a career counselor. I'm involved in helping people to develop their personal brand, helping people to come up with clear direction of what jobs to do, how to get hired, how to get jobs. And I also lecture about the topic of Judaism and careers throughout the world. And I've done it both here and in the States to different communities. And whenever I do that, I always start with this warm-up exercise with another marketing concept called word association. Okay, word association is used very much in market research. The concept of word association is that we have a subconscious relation towards ideas or products or concepts, and that really reveals how we really relate to it. So the way word association goes, okay, and we'll do it here together, is like this. I'm going to say a concept, and then the first word that comes to mind, you just say what it is, okay? So we'll do a couple of rounds. All right, here we go. Okay, so here we go. All right. So I say great. Okay, and it can be anything. Okay, don't think about it. It doesn't have to be a brand. It doesn't have to be a company. Whatever comes to mind. All right, you guys in? Let's go. Okay, I say great airline service. You say? You say? You say?
Ejection.
Dreams.
Greens?
Dreams.
Dreams. All right, what did you say over there?
United. Ejection.
All right, there you go. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's do another one. All right, I say inspiring shul community activities. You say? You say? Simcha Star dancing. Shiurim.
Learning programs.
Learning programs. Amazing. Okay, great. No one said base speak. Ava Shalom. But okay, we'll cut that out of the video. Ava Shalom. All right, one more time. Okay, I say Jewish values. You say? Torah. Family. Emunah. Chesed. Jewish values. What comes?
Money.
Money. All right. So the truth is, who just said money? All right. So the truth is, I've done this numerous times to all different types of people, very from people that don't really know much about Judaism. I've heard all interesting types of answers. I've heard Shabbos. I've heard Shul. I've heard Shulent. I've never heard money before, and the truth is that money is perhaps closest to the one that I always say that I've never heard. Okay, it's good you didn't say it, because then I can't say no one's ever said it. So I say Judaism, and you say career success. It's never happened yet. It's never happened yet. And the truth is that perhaps for good reason, because the way that most people think is that Judaism and careers or jobs or career success don't really have much to do with each other. In fact, they may perhaps compete. They may be competing values. They may kind of get in the way of each other on some level. But what I talk about in the seminar, we're not going to talk about the seminar so much. It's a different seminar that I do. Is that really Judaism has all of the wisdom and guidance to how a person can build a successful career, how a person can be excited about their job, how a person can be successful at what they do. And inversely, Judaism career success also gives us all the guidance on how we can be successful in Judaism. So, like I mentioned before, we're not going to focus so much on the first one. I spoke about that last year a bit, about Judaism giving us and Torah giving us perspective on how to be successful. Just one thing I will mention, because I assume if you guys are here today, perhaps you may work and you're off and you work in Israel. I think that was part of the concept over here. So just one empowering idea that's very special for people that are working in Israel and therefore off today is that one of the key strategies and important things to keep in mind when it comes to working, right, and being successful at work is a person finding meaning and being happy with their jobs. Okay, there's a lot of research also scientifically that's been proven to show that. Okay, there are sources in the Torah that talk about that. We're not going to talk about that right now. But one thing just to keep in mind, and really and after this we're going to jump back into personal branding, but I thought it would be a shame not to mention it today, is that for those of you that are working in Eretz Yisrael, there's a beautiful piece by the Chassam Sofer. Yes, it's Kedai Ma'od to see inside. They probably have it here in the shul. In Torah's Moshe, in Sefer Devarim, where the Chassam Sofer says, when he's talking about work, right? The Chassam Sofer says that when a person works in Eretz Yisrael, he's being mekayim the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, right? That the work in Eretz Yisrael is a kiyum of the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. So besides, where the person wakes up every day and he goes to work in Eretz Yisrael, something to keep in mind, right? Perhaps it's something that we for sure should think about even throughout the day, right? To give us a proper perspective right, and connect work to the base medrash is that the work itself is a kiyum of Eretz Yisrael. In Masechta Sukkah, he's speaking about the planting and plowing of the land. Right, the Chassam Sofer even goes so far to say, right, that the planting and plowing of Eretz Yisrael is the equivalent of a person putting on tefillin. Right, that's what the Chassam Sofer's words in Sukkah. But in Toras Moshe and Parsha Shoftim, the Chassam Sofer says, "V'lo levad avodas karka, ela limud kol ha'umnius mishum gishu v'kavod Eretz Yisrael, shelo yomu lo nimtza v'chol Eretz Yisrael sandler u'banai u'kadoime v'yavu me'artzos v'choykos, al kein chaya limud kol umnus mitzvah." The Chassam Sofer says is not only is working and planting the land, which we generally would associate to Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, but he says that all jobs are part of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael and bringing kavod to Eretz Yisrael. Because it would be a genai if people would say, in Eretz Yisrael they don't have sandlers, in Eretz Yisrael they don't have builders, in Eretz Yisrael they don't have accountants, in Eretz Yisrael they don't have lawyers, in Eretz Yisrael, if we need to, dentist, right? If we need to outsource things to other countries because Eretz Yisrael wouldn't have it, that would be a genai to Eretz Yisrael. And therefore the Chassam Sofer says is that everything is a mitzvah. So that's a very empowering thing, to take, photocopy, write down, and put on your computer, and think about a lot. But what we're going to talk about today is the inverse of that. It's in Parsha Shoftim. Toras Moshe, Parsha Shoftim, Ala Torah. That's where he says, I can give you the Marambachim and Sukkah later. I don't have it written down over here. But Od Kedai to see. It's very interesting, the concept he brings it about, what he's talking about over there, of a Rambam. It's a very, very interesting piece. But what we're going to talk about today, right, is the inverse, which is how career success gives us guidance to how to be successful in Judaism. Now, this connection between Judaism and career success is not mine. Right? In fact, it really comes from the Torah. And where it comes from the Torah is the following. The Gemara Kedushin, just as a Maramako that you guys may be familiar with, so the Gemara Kedushin is Dorish HaPasuk in Koheles. And in Koheles, Shlomo Melech says, Re'ei Chaim im Ha'isha asher ahavta. Right? Rashi explains what's Re'ei Chaim, or the person should experience life. Right? Im Ha'isha asher ahavta, with his spouse. So the Gemara in Kedushin there learns out what does it mean when it says Re'ei Chaim im Ha'isha. So the Gemara in Kedushin says, Chizkiah says, the Amakra, right here they're talking about the mitzvah to teach the mitzvah of teaching a person's son a trade in the Gemara Kedushin, and it says that Re'ei Chaim, right? What's Re'ei Chaim? So Chaim, the Gemara learns out is Chaim. The Gemara learns out is a job, okay, is a person's job. That's Chaim. Ima Isha. So the Gemara says Ima Isha Mamish. So just like Kashem Shechayiv Lasio Isha, just like a father needs to marry off his son to get married, Kach Chaim Lelamdoi Ubnus. Or in Torah or if Isha is the code word for Torah, so Kashem Shechayiv Lelamdoi Torah, Kach Chayiv Lelamdo Umnus. So to a father needs to teach his son a trade. So here we see that the word Isha, or spouse, is used for both a wife, and it's also used for Torah. Now what's interesting is that the Yalkut Shimoni on Koheles learns this drasha the opposite way. The Yalkut Shimoni says, what's Re'ei Chaim Ima Isha? So the Yalkut Shimoni says, what's Chaim? Chaim is what we would have thought, right? It's a chiddush to say the Chaim is umnus, is a job, right? What's Chaim? Chaim is Torah. What's Ima Isha? Ima Isha is a person's job. So we see that the word that we find in the Yalkut Shimoni that's used for a job is Isha. So let's count. What's called Isha? A person's spouse is called Isha, right? Torah is called Isha, and a person's job is called Isha. Now that's, for me, that was quite puzzling. Right? We know that this is not, Wikipedia uses a way to describe something. Okay, forget about Wikipedia. But when the Torah uses a word to describe something, there is incredible depth. Right? And we all know, right, as people that learn Gemara, and people that learn the depth of Torah, that there's a depth to every nikuda, every word that's used. So what's the Torah telling us when it's calling our wife, our job, and Torah our spouse? So the Maharal says in Sanhedrin, addresses this. And he says, incredibly, that the word Isha, the concept of spouse that we know of, is not actually, in reality, our wife or husband. That's not our wife. That is the way that it manifests itself in one realm. But the definition of Isha in Torah is something that a person deeply connects to. That is what Isha means. And therefore the Maral goes on to explain that the Torah calls all the things that a person should deeply connect to Isha. A person's spouse, Torah, and a person's job. Are all things that a person should deeply connect to doing. Well, here we find this correlation, right, between these three things. And what that teaches us, right, is that by understanding one, right, if the Torah is calling them all the same thing, we can apply that to the other and be able to learn one out for the other. So let's talk a little bit about personal branding, right, and how personal branding helps in careers, and then we're going to be able to see how it's going to help us in our Judaism. So, this works all right? I had a blue one over here. I have it in my pocket. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, okay, and a lot to cover. We're going to take you guys on a big, long journey. Let's talk a little bit about education, and we're going to talk about work, personality, and we're going to talk about Torah, all in this hexagon. Okay, so what we're looking at over here, okay, John Hollins, who's one of the founders in modern career theory. Really, Torah is the founder of it. But so he talks about 6 core work personalities. Okay, I'm going to describe them very briefly. Okay, I'll be around for questions afterwards. Okay, but and then I'm going to see how this all comes together. Okay, so what we have over here. Now, what work personality is. Don't worry if you can't read my handwriting. It's really more for me. Okay, I actually did not make this proper hexagon. That's mine. No? Okay, there you go, my shapes. Here we have enterprising. Here we have social. Okay, we have 6. Perfect. So I'm in the shape. Okay, so what he speaks about in work personality is like this. There's something called jobs. Okay? And jobs have jobs and lots of job titles. Okay, I'll explain what they are. This is part of the handwriting. Now, beneath all jobs is what he calls work personality, which means is that there are certain core work personalities within individuals. And if a person understands what their work personality is, right, what gets them going, that's going to be the area of success. So let's just talk about the 6 core work personalities. Okay, the investigative work personality is somebody who likes working with data, likes working with information, likes problem solving. Okay, for them, right, they get something, right, that's difficult to understand, to process, they love it. Okay, I'm cutting it very short here, but just because of time. The artistic personality is somebody who flows and lives creativity. For them, generating new ideas, innovative ideas, right, being original out of the box is who they are. The social personality is all about helping people. It could express itself in helping people, with people, or it could be helping a cause which benefits society. But what really motivates and gets their juices going is helping people for the sake of helping people. The enterprising personality is a person that loves being in charge. Right? For them, they like to dictate the way that things go. They generally move themselves up into management positions. They like to change the way that people think. It expresses itself in sales because they like to change the person's no into a yes. They like to win. For them, they love competition and they love that grind. The conventional personality lives and thrives off of efficiency. For them, it's all about taking things and making them work. Logistics. The conventional personality in the work expression, somebody who would be highly conventional, doesn't need problem solving. They can do the same thing over and over again. In fact, they actually love doing the same thing over and over again, and that energizes them. The realistic personality is someone who likes working with physical matter. right? If the investigative personality likes working with data, and the social personality likes working with people, the realistic personality is all about working with physical things. That's where they feel comfortable. They like working with, they're your drivers, they're carpenters, they're your fix-it people. That's where they thrive. Now, I want you guys to take a step or a couple steps or a few steps back, okay, back into high school. Okay, and this is something I speak about when I'm working with high school students in schools. Is that you can imagine the high school curriculum, right, that you may have been brought up, okay? What subjects would this personality, the investigative personality, right, thrive in? Like working with data, problem solving. Okay, very good. So we have science. Okay, what else? Mathematics. Okay, math. Very good. Okay, beautiful. Okay, now, where would the conventional personality, the conventional personality in high school thrive? They love doing, like order, being misudar, making everything match up. Right, what's up? Very good, math. Okay. Anything else? Language. Okay, language. Some aspect of language. Very good. Grammar. Okay, very good. Now, where would the artistic personality, the one that's all about originality, creativity, being out of the box, where are they going to find themselves in high school?
Literature.
Art.
In the classroom. In the classroom.
Creative
Okay,
writing.
so literature is one outlet. Very good. Okay.
Creative writing.
Right, so literature. Okay. Okay, great. So these actually were the three easier ones. Okay, now let's talk about the social personality. Right, where are they going to find themselves in high school?
Social activities.
Right, so student council, okay. So this person finds themselves out of the classroom because they like to talk to people. Okay, so they're out of the classroom. Now, where's the enterprising personality? The one that likes to be in charge and not follow the rules and likes to dictate the way things are going to go? They're very good at out of the classroom, right? In principal's house. Where's the realistic personality? The guy who likes fixing things, hands-on, doesn't like working with data. Where's he going to find himself? Out of the classroom. Very good. Okay. So what I'd like to, well, in high school, he's going to find himself doodling under the table and then being sent out of the class. He is ADD because he's not paying attention in class, so he's on medication. What?
That's why they have shop class.
All right, in some high schools. Okay, we're making some progress today in education. But what actually happens is that 4 out of the 6 personality types can be tremendously successful. This is going to be your top musician, your top marketing creative guy. This is going to be your top psychologist. This is going to be your top businessman. This is going to be the guy who's like building your house. And they're all going to be out of the classroom. So what happens is that we have different types of people. Right? And education comes and tries to sell us one type of a person. Or 2 types of people. What happens? And I've sat with these types of students. Is that often what happens and they say, you know what? School's not for me. In a worst case scenario, they leave school with a very negative self-image of who they are because they don't think they're successful, while really they could be tremendously successful. Now let's jump a few years and let's talk about actual jobs, okay? Now, what happens when you take somebody who's very artistic, very original, very creative, that's who he is, okay? And you take that person and put him into a job role, right? Because he needs a job, so he sees that there's a job going around, for data entry, right? Very, very simple. Anyone can do it, right? I can do it with my own hand. You take a person like that and put them in that type of job. What's going to happen?
Frustration.
He's going to be very frustrated, right? He's going to leave his job. What happens when you take someone who has very good social skills and is all about helping people, and they see there's a job available, because most of the jobs that are available on entry level, especially people who don't have qualification, are types of jobs like conventional jobs and sales jobs. So take someone who's very good with people and now put them into a job where now the bottom line here is making money and not helping someone. What happens to this type of a person in that job? They feel very guilty. They feel very unfulfilled. And they don't do their job well. Right, so what's happening today is that the recent studies show that 80% of Americans hate their job. And the amount of turnover that's happening today, right, in jobs, people coming and people leaving, right, is so great. There's a whole industry that's open on how to get people to become engaged at work. They give out brownie points, gamification, they give out, video badges, whatever works to keep people motivated to do things that they're not fit to do. Now, personal branding is really the key for a person being successful here. Because if a person is authentic to who they are, and a person knows who they are, what they stand for, and what they bring to the table, and then they work to align themselves in that area, then they're going to be, then that's the key to them being successful. Now, let's jump into Judaism. Now, this is what we're supposed to be talking about today. So, what Jewish content, right, in the curriculum is generally, investigative.
Iyun.
Very good. Gemara Iyun. Conventional.
Halacha.
Very good. Now, what happens, right, is that often people are exposed to a Judaism, right, and this is something that resonated, speaking to people that were, from all different backgrounds, and I always like to see the connection when I sit with clients between their work personality type and the Torah type, right, is that people are exposed to a certain type of Judaism, right? In some societies, they're exposed to a very realistic, conventional Judaism. It's about rituals. It's about what you do. It's what you can do, it's what you can't do, it's what you have to do. This is what you do. Some people are exposed to a very investigative Judaism. And what happens if you have somebody who's a very artistic person? He's a very social person. He's a very enterprising person. He goes through and is exposed to a Judaism or to a Torah and mitzvos that are not who he is. What happens is, very simply, right, is that he can walk away saying, you know what? Judaism's not who I am. Right? And Dafka, it's the very authentic child. It's the very real child with who he is. Right? Which very often are these types of people that are very in tune with who they are. That looks at what he was exposed to and says, Judaism has nothing to do with me. So a person can, unfortunately, be brought up in a curriculum where he says, I need to go out to work, and then when he starts working, he finds he thrives. So he says, work is for me, right? Because this is who I am. This is who I am, right? Or you're people that travel the world, right? And I've just this past week I was working with a trip from Esha Torah that travel the world because they thought this was Judaism, and they had to go travel the world to see where they can find creativity and originality and all these aspects of Judaism, because they say there's no kesher between who I am and between Judaism is. So personal branding, right, when we understand what is it about who we are and where that aligns itself with Judaism, is the key for each one of us to really be successful, right, in finding that area where we're going to shine, right, and where we're going to be able to be mashpia, right? Often people ask me this question, right? How do I, try to motivate someone to do this and try to motivate them to do that? We can't talk about motivation. We can't talk about strategies in helping people if we don't understand the person that we're dealing with and what makes that person tick.
No, that's not reality.
So we're going to talk about, what do you mean by it's not reality?
I'm going to say it very roughly.
Yeah.
You're in a mob situation. You're either in the mob or you're out. Society forces me to do certain things that I'm not.
Okay.
And they force me to do.
Okay.
If not, I'm out.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about that, and the truth is we have very limited time to get through. We want to get through this, but basically we're gonna get there.
I don't want to be
No. We're gonna. So we're gonna get there. Okay. So what we're gonna do is this very. Okay. I usually give more time, but we're gonna have to do it fast. Okay. What we have over here is a core values exercise. Okay. If you have a pen or pencil, great. If not, I have some. What I want you to do is to take 3 minutes, okay, and to take a look. Do you mind just passing them around? Okay. At this list, and to circle there 10 values that really resonate with who you are, okay? Now, all of them are really great values, okay? And that's why some people I work with have a very hard time. I have someone that tried to tick off all, 26. Okay, the key over here in developing your personal brand, if we had to choose 10 things over here that either experiences that we want to experience for ourselves, or if you were in charge of a school, you were in charge of a community, you were in charge of an education system, values that you think would be important to promote for you, right? What are those 10 values that you would pick? Okay, go through them. If you need a pen, I have some over here.
Things that I think society should do.
So there are a few ways of looking at this question. It really depends. For some people, resonates more than the other. It's either something that you want to experience for yourself. Some people don't know what that is, so it's easier for them to think. If I was in charge of a school, I was in charge of a shul, and I had to choose values to try to people should work on. What would be those values? Now, the one thing that it cannot be, okay, is that it cannot be values that someone else told you are important. So whether that someone else is your parents, or Judaism, or the Torah, for now, leave it off the list. Okay? Because what's important here is that what speaks to you. Okay, so go through that list now, guys. Let's take 2 minutes, okay, and circle Ted. Okay?
I don't understand what
you don't know what I mean. Okay. What I mean is that on this list in front of you have certain values.
Right.
So what are 10 things? If you read through them, you'll think, oh, that's like an important thing. That's an important thing. What are 10 things there that are things that resonate with you as being most important, either for you to experience if you want to achieve for yourself. It doesn't mean that you're doing it now, but something that you're excited about. Okay, look, maybe I'll put it this way. If Abba Shalom decided that they were putting together a committee to promote one of these values, which values would you show up to that meeting on Matzah Shabbos to be like, yeah, I want to promote that? Because that's something which really, really speaks who I am. Right? It's not that you came because it was a raffle, you didn't come because someone told you had to come, or your friends were going. You're there because this is who I am. Okay? So go through that and select 10. No, you keep it for yourself. Okay, when you're finished with your 10, put your pens down. Okay, and because we're short on time, I'm going to tell you the second part of this is that really I want 5. Okay, the reason why I say 10 in the beginning, some people would never get off the page, right, if they had to pick 5. I really want 5. Okay, so you have to look through your 10 and try to clarify for yourself. There are 5 things here that really speak more than the rest of them. What would those 5 be? 5 out of the 10. You don't have to number them for now. The truth is for yourself, and if you want to create a personal brand, you should number them, but for now it's out of the scope of this talk. But for now, just come up with those 5 values that are really important to you. No, the sheet is for you. The sheet is for you to keep.
How would you define the enterprising guy?
Okay, so one of the rules of this, it really depends what it means for you. So what I mean over there is kind of like being in charge, like kind of like building things. It's another word. A lot of these
being in charge of other.
The enterprising, enterprising. No, enterprising is about being in charge, changing the way that people think, changing the way that things go, managing. Okay, okay, great. So just gonna finish up your 5, then.
And realistic is the one who works with material.
Likes to work with physical matter. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so what's your name in the back? You want to ask the good question? What's your name? Yehuda? Okay, beautiful. Okay, so Yehuda asked a great question. What we're going to do right now is we're going to pass this out, okay? Okay, and we're going to go through this together with the time we have left, and I think we're hopefully got time to address Yehuda's great question. Can I have one? Okay. So what we've done right now, okay, while we pass out the sheet, okay, and we'll go through it together, is that we've defined for ourselves what are those core 5 things that make us excited. What are those 4 or 5 values, right, that make us passionate? Now, in creating a personal brand, okay, which we're not going to really be able to create in the career sense today, okay, the second step of creating a personal brand would be connecting what I stand for with what I do and how I do it. Okay, so really, and this is just an exercise, if you like to work towards creating a brand for yourself, right, is to take these 5 values and think for yourself later today. Right? Try to think of something you've done, the more the better, an accomplishment that you did, that you feel proud of, that expressed one of these values. Doesn't need to be life-changing or change the world. But if there's something that you did that expressed one of the values that are important to you, write that down. And then, after you write that down, look at each one of those and identify for yourself what are the skills that you used when you accomplished that. And were they, thinking skills? Were they problem-solving skills? Were they writing communication skills? Were they oral communication skills? So you build for yourself a map, right, where you've aligned who I am and what I do when I'm acting in my zone. That is the beginning steps of building a personal brand that will give you the clarity of where you're going to be most successful. And what we're going to talk about right now, right, which is related, is that where these core values find themselves in Judaism, right? Because as Yehuda said, sometimes it could be difficult. So this sheet that I've created over here, it doesn't have all of the values, but what I've done is that I've kind of created subcategories of core values, right? Which a lot of the values that you may have chosen fall under these values. Okay, so we have over here personal development is important, good communication is important, making a difference is important, courage, determination, responsibility, loyalty, achievement, success, honesty, wisdom, understanding, learning. Okay, and hopefully if you take a look at this sheet and you take a look at your 5 values, you'll see where all or some or most of your values fall in. Now, what we want to do in creating our personal brand in Judaism is see where in Judaism does that which is important to us, who we are, express itself. So if you look over here in the second column, a Jewish concept, and this is really something I gave out to the Eishel Torah group I was working with, so I see some definitions over here, is that these are Jewish concepts that express those values. So if I'm somebody who is passionate about personal development, that's something which really defines who I am. So then concepts like tikkun nefesh, tikkun midos are going to be that area of expression where I'm going to find myself in Judaism. Right? If I'm somebody who courage and determination, right, and achievement is really about who I am. So then concepts like learning about Mesiras Nefesh, right, learning about overcoming nisyonos, right, are things that are going to speak with me within Judaism. And over here in the third column, I've listed just certain basic Jewish resources. These are books that are in English, right? It's a sheet I gave out to Eishel Torah, right, that starts to open up what areas of Torah and what resources I can look at where I'm going to find that area of learning which really expresses who I am. But Yehuda asked a great question, because Yehuda said, but at the end of the day, right, the education system is a box, a square, however you want to look at. So what's going to happen, right, if at the end of the day I may be a very artistic person, I may be all about personal development, I may be all about courage and determination, I may be all about, responsibility and loyalty. That's what gets me going, but I'm put into a situation where, there's Shulchan Aruch, this is what we do. There's the education system we find ourselves in. There's just our structure that we work in, right? How can we bridge, right, who we are with what we're doing, right? Even especially when we don't necessarily have control of that. So one way, right, is that on top of whatever we're doing in the system, right, to make sure that we have that outlet for who we are. Right? I always tell this to people when it comes to jobs. Sometimes people are working in jobs that don't express who they are. Right? So after we go through this exercise, we help them realize you don't have to do everything in your job. Right? And if you're filling up your gas at a different time, so then you're going to have gas to run on during the day. But if a person's not filling up their gas, and even worse, if a person doesn't even know what their gas is, so then they're never going to have a chance in being able to make it. But the truth is that in Judaism, we shoot a lot higher. And the reason why we shoot a lot higher is because we peel off a layer of what we're doing. And we peel off a layer of how we do it, and we focus on the why. And what I mean is like this. Sometimes there's a social person, a client I'm working with, who loves working with people. They're also they like working with people, but it doesn't work for them to work as a psychologist or a therapist. It just doesn't work. They were trained in something else. It's not going to make enough money. So sometimes what we do is realize that a person can also work in something else if they look at it from a different context. For example, a person that had to work, let's say, in finance or accounting, there's a difference between working for that in the corporate world and working for that for a nonprofit organization, right? Someone be totally not motivated to work as an accountant, for a company. But now if he's using his skills towards something he believes in, now he's become empowered, right? We have the Gemara. The Gemara is huge. Right? Not every sugya needs to be, right, about something that doesn't relate to us. If somebody is passionate about helping people, so learn the sugya of tzedakah. Right? If someone's passionate about personal development, right, learn sugyas about chesed, be'iyun, lahalacha. Make it yours. Find your why and bring it out in your how and what. In your limud, even in Gemara, and even in halacha. So to close, there are three areas that we all encounter in our Judaism where this concept of personal branding can make our Judaism personalized. The first one is Parsha. Right? Often people ask me, right, for an idea for a vort, right, give me an idea on the Parsha, right? There are books, the vort and the Parsha. Okay. The question is, right, is that what are you passionate about? And then you can find it in the Parsha. The Parsha is huge. In every Parsha that we look at, there's so many stories, there are so many themes. When we have the clarity of what we're about, we're able to take that and to bring it into our learning of Parsha and make the Parsha become ours. Yom Tov. Every Yom Tov, there's always lots of talks. Yom Tov's about this, Yom Tov's about that, Yom Tov's about this, Yom Tov's about that, this book about this book about that. When we have clarity about what our why is about, you have the ability to go through each Yom Tov that you go through and create a pattern, create a portrait, right, of those values that are important to you, and find that theme in the Yom Tov. We don't have time to go through each Yom Tov right now, but find that in each Yom Tov. Find that in each Tanakh figure that you're doing. Find that in the personality of the Tana and the Amoira, and understand his life. And see the connection between Rabbi Akiva's life and the way that it expresses itself, right, through different areas in Shas. When a person understands what he's motivated and passionate about, he's able, even in the structure, to find the area where he's able to make it personally. And the last one I'd like to speak about is tefillah. And tefillah is something which we all struggle with, right? Where does the chiddush of tefillah come from? Where does the chiyus of tefillah come from? The chiyus of tefillah comes from a person making tefillah their own. Right? The words that the Chazal gave us for tefillah can mean so many different things in so many different levels. Let's just look, for example, the bracha Baruch Aleinu. Right? So what's bracha Baruch Aleinu about? Baruch Aleinu is about asking for parnasa, right? Maybe. It is, on one level. But if I know I'm all about making a difference and tikkun olam, and like that's who I am, right? When I look at Baruch Aleinu, and I look at this concept of the way that Hashem supports the world, right, and the way that Hashem brings down rain, and the relationship, the way Hashem brings down sustenance, right, and the role that plays in the bigger picture of the way that Hashem runs the world. When I say those words of Baruch Aleinu, it's a totally different experience. Tikah b'shayfer, it's about geula. For somebody, that's about determination and courage. Or when I look at those words, and I'm able to look at those words that I'm saying through the perspective of the challenge that the Jewish people have had, where we stand in history, the challenges that I'm having today, my personal geula, right, Go'al Yisrael. Tefillah and Tehillim is the place for the artistic personality. It is the place for a person to express themselves in their personal way. But that requires us for first going through step one of knowing what we're all about. So to sum up, right, today we've discussed how understanding our personal brand, right, and building our personal brand and living our personal brand will make our Judaism more meaningful, more impactful towards others, right? And that's where really the second part of personal branding comes, is that now that I'm authentic to myself, now I can have impact. We don't have time to talk about it, because now I'm speaking from a place of depth. But even more importantly, for the first step, being authentic with ourselves enables us to be able to allow Judaism to impact us in a very real way.
Wow.